what she would do. I think she would certainly hook up with Haleigh, but, could she be persuaded to make a mistake in the game? Could she be persuaded to target, put JC and Brett up on the block, or JC and Tyler up on the block? I feel like that she might also make a mistake. Nobody coming back in the house is a slam dunk. That's the thing to keep in mind. I feel, actually, believe it or not, I feel like the only person who's a slam dunk is Fessy, because he would turn around and do exactly the opposite of what happened this week, and I think he would put Tyler and Angela up on the block if he got HOH. So I feel like that's the most interesting thing that could happen for the Battle Back people.
Yeah. I do think that Scottie is the most likely person to return. If it's an endurance competition, I think he probably has an edge. He's pretty light and also athletic. I think that Bayleigh would probably have the second best chance to return in some kind of endurance competition. If it's not endurance, I still think that Scottie has a leg up in basically any kind of competition. And then Fessy might be second place in any of those weird potential competitions, but I think there's not it's not too long of a shot for Bayleigh to be the person returning here, Melissa.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I think that honestly, I think any of the people coming back could be good, or also could be bad. I mean, it could be a revolving door situation, which I'm hoping it will not be a revolving door situation, because I really hate that. I mean, it ends up just being a wasted week. I'd prefer at least something to come from it, rather than just we waste a week. But, at first I was thinking the only one I didn't want was Fessy coming back, because I just felt like he'd come back in and be dumb about it again. But what you just said made me kind of convinced that it might be an interesting scenario to have him come back in, because he hopefully would not make the same mistakes that he had made before. So,
I was just going to say, people in the chat asking us about Bayleigh's possible condition. Obviously, we've alluded to the possibility of a Bayleigh pregnancy before on the chat, but nothing's ever been confirmed. The fact that nothing's ever been confirmed, I feel like the show or Bayleigh or Swaggy would be celebrating this, and the fact that they haven't said anything, I think it's fake news at this point. I would be surprised if she was pregnant. So I think she's going to be there for the Battle Back.
For the record, I believe there are some people that are still clinging on to this idea. I believe I heard secondhand that Evil Dick heard secondhand that that maybe this was true and that she was actually, I think I saw that on Reddit somewhere.
Let me buy some stock in that right now.
Yes. So take that for what you will. I also asked the audience, who do you want to win the Battle Back? And again, overwhelmingly, about 75% of people said Scottie. They would want Scottie.
Surprise.
Yes. Yeah. Second place was Rockstar with about 12%.
Still trying to rig the boats, aren't you, Rockstar
I don't know
people?
if she would be my next pick, but yeah.
Yeah. Then Bayleigh at 7% and Fessy at 5%. I did not include Haleigh because I don't expect Haleigh to leave. And nobody expects Haleigh to leave, so it would be hard to answer in speculation of a situation that you don't anticipate. But overwhelmingly here, Scottie is the choice for people that they want Scottie to come back. But let's talk about the stock watch. Let's get into it. We've got the stock watch here. There it is. All right. We've got to rate these players. I sent out the form that I've been talking about to all of you on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. You guys filled it out, and now we have the results of how you chose to rate each player's game this week, and we are going to rate them ourselves as well. And we are going to start with our HOH, Angela. Last week, she got an overall price of $7. I gave her a 7. Melissa did as well. The audience lower on her, they gave her a 6. Brent was the highest. He gave her an 8 out of 10. Brent, how do you feel about Angela this week?
I have gone down a little bit on Angela. This week, I gave her a 6. I do not feel relatively good about her game, because I do feel like of the people that are within the trio right now, of course, we know it's more than a trio, but I do feel like people within that, I feel like she is the most likely person to go home. I feel like that Kaycee sitting on the block next to Angela, there's no way Kaycee goes home. I really don't think that. Tyler, I don't know what Tyler would do, but aside from that, I think everybody would vote to evict Angela. I think they respect the game that she's playing in the Big Brother house right now, but I do not expect her to be able to get to the end. Of the the people in level 6, I do think that she is the first one gone at this point. I think she's gone even before Brett, and I did not think that last week. I think she's gone before Brett. I think that people don't want her in the house, and I feel like they don't trust her, especially after she broke her word to Haleigh and Fessy this week. JC obviously has no love for her. Whoever comes back has no love for her. She can't win HOH this week. She needs a couple things to go her way in order for her game to improve overall. But this little Tangela thing has not, I think it's actually hurt them both, believe it or not. So that's why I gave her a 6.
All right, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to remain what I was last week, which is a 7. I don't feel so much better about her game this week, but I also don't feel so much worse about her game. I feel like she's kind of in a similar position. I think the battle back could be bad for her because, she's nominated or gotten evicted some of the people who are out the door. So I think that there could be people coming back with a vengeance. And so I agree with Brent. I think she's probably the first to go from level 6. So I don't feel so amazing about her game, but I do feel like she handled her HOH this week pretty well. I mean, the fact that she was considering just getting Sam out when I don't think that would have been a good move for her. I think that she did a good job in getting out Fessy or Haleigh. So, I'm just going to stick with my 7.
All right. It's tough. It's a tough one here because I do think that Angela... she's playing a game of dichotomies here because on one hand Haleigh and Fessy talked a lot about how bitter they were going to be in the jury house, how they would vote for anybody over Angela. On the other hand, it seems like Angela is garnering a lot of respect for her actions this week. I think that they're talking about how well she's playing when they're talking about how bitter they're going to be, and she is actually doing good work with Haleigh to bond with her and get her back on board with Angela and sort of explain her reasoning for why she had to betray them and all of this stuff. So I like what Angela's doing there. I do think the battle back is definitely a major detriment to her game. Despite that, I think that she's one of the most likely people to take the bullet if the person who wins the battle back or Haleigh wins the HOH. And I think that the fact that JC and Brett both seem to want her out is also not great for her. Also, the fact that Tyler doesn't seem to want to take her to the final 2 is definitely not good for her. I think she's in one of the better positions as a front runner, but it's hard to see her making her way to the end of the game. I actually do think she can win if she gets there. I think she will get some begrudging respect, but it's hard to imagine her getting there, especially without Tyler on board. So I gave her a 6 this week, down from the 7 of last week. The audience was the lowest on her last week. They gave her a 6, but they have changed their tune this week. They are up to a 7 on Angela this week. So we're going back and forth here, audience. So that's gonna give Angela. That's gonna keep her at a price of $7 this week. So Angela stock remains unchanged. Let's move on to Haleigh, who was at a very low, a season low, $2 last week. It was not looking great for her, especially given the fact that she really should have been the target this week. She really should be the one going home this week. But miraculously, the level 6 people have decided to spare her for a week. And she is definitely somebody that might benefit from the battle back, but also might be harmed by the battle back, especially if there was a civil war that was about to start. That would have been her chance to reintegrate. If a battle back happens and she pairs up with the other person, she might go before them, especially if it's somebody like Rockstar or Bayleigh. And even if she doesn't, even if it's Scottie and he goes before her, then the opportunity for the Civil War has kind of gone away. It might be a different case. It might be a different scenario at that point. So I do think that maybe things have improved a little bit for Haleigh, but just how much have they improved, Melissa? What do you think?
I do think that they've improved a little bit. I like the fact that she's trying to integrate herself back in with other people in the house now that she's found out she's not the target. However, I don't know if I have the confidence that she can really see what's actually going on in the game. I feel like I always want to believe that she has a good read on the house, and then she doesn't. So I'm a little iffy on her. I feel like the battle back could change some things, because I feel like if things stay the way they are, it's possible that she's the main target for next week. However, with the battle back, maybe the new person's the target for next week. So I do think she's playing a little better than she was last week, because last week she just made some just horrible moves. So I'm going to go up a little bit and give her a 3 instead of my last week's 2.
Well, I gave her a 3 as well, but the question I have for Haleigh does the narrative change for her? Because the narrative right now in the house is that she's clearly at the bottom. No one really wants to work with her. Yes, she's done, good work with Angela and Kaycee, but it's mainly just to save her butt at this point, because she has no one in the Big Brother house right now. I think she has a viable, oh God, I said it again, relationship with Brett. See, I say it all the time now. And I feel like it's something that she could hang on to. Also, JC's pretending to be her friend as well. So there's that. But what is the narrative for Haleigh in the Big Brother house right now? And it's not good. It's not somebody who's on an upward trajectory. And for that reason, I gave her a 3. However, I'm sure you're looking at it going, well, you gave her a 2 last week, Brent, so why are you giving her a 3? I gave her a better score this week, number 1, because she's not the person going home. Number 2, because the battle back might change the way things look in the Big Brother house. But I can't really go above a 3 until I feel like she has a foothold in the game. Right now, she's like the person in the life raft with only one of the flippers on like one of her arms, who's just trying to stay afloat. She's not actually swimming. So until she actually swims, then this is all I got for you.
Yeah, I would have considered a 4 for Haleigh without the battle back, but I do think the battle back harms her more than helps her. So I went with a 3. I think the fact that she escaped this eviction is huge. If she was the only person remaining from Faute, I think that would be a great spot for her. People might start to overlook her, but with somebody coming back into the house, putting a target back on her back, that could not be good. Even if it is Scottie, and he's a bigger target over her, if Scottie wins the veto, guess who's going home? It's going to be Haleigh. So it's not looking great for Haleigh, but obviously slightly improved from where she was at this point last week, because at this point last week we figured she would be the one going home and not Fessy. So there you go. The audience stayed with their previous rating of a 3, so all 4 of us gave her 3s.
3s across the board.
Yes. So
By the way, apparently I gave her a 1 last week. I was really pissy with her last week, and I can let my emotions get involved sometimes. So, whatever. I gave her a 1 last week. I had nowhere to go but up, people.
Yes. So Haleigh's shares are going to go from $2 to $3. Slight improvement. Is this the start of an upward trend? Who knows? Let's also talk about Fessy. Oh, Fessy. I gave him a 2 last week because I felt like Haleigh was the one that would leave this week and not Fessy. Turns out Fessy is the one that's going to leave this week and not Haleigh. So at this point, should Fessy have a 1 is my question. He does have a chance to return in the battle back, but personally, I think it's over for Fessy. I'm gonna give him a 1. I think
I'm gonna give him a 1.
Yeah, he is dead at this point. Like there's no more room for Fessy in this game. Even if he does return in the battle back, even if he then wins a veto and Haleigh goes home ahead of him, it's just such an ugly road to get there. And it's hard to see even some of his allies voting for him at the end if he somehow managed to get there, which I still don't see as that possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop him down to a 1. Brent agrees. Melissa, what do you think?
The only reason I would consider not giving him a 1 is I feel like he has a better read on the house now than he did last week, which is saying something that I'm even considering not giving him a 1 when he's like literally got 1 foot out the door. But, I feel more confident about his game now than I did last week. However, you're right. I don't necessarily see anyone voting for him, especially not anyone from level 6, and definitely, and also likely not his own allies. The one person who you'd think, maybe would be Haleigh, and then he's been saying this whole week, I don't care about the game. Like, I just want to make sure you and I are okay or whatever. And I don't think Haleigh would respect that when she gets down to the end and it's time to vote. So, yeah, I guess I have to give him a 1 as well.
All right. So 3 1s for Fessy so far. And can we make it 4 for 4 is the question. The answer is yes, we can. The audience gave Fessy a 1 out of 10. All 4 1s. That has to be a record. I'm trying to find...
Yeah, that's bad.
I'm trying to make sure that this is, in fact, a record-setting a score here. I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh, it's gotta be. Yeah, because I think the only one I've ever given out was Fessy last week, I think. So it's gotta be a record.
Brent is back, but we can't see him quite yet.
You just hear a little...
Maybe I have to talk. I don't know.
Still don't see you.
Oh hell! All right. Well, I had to go out because they said I was lagging, so I was trying to reconnect. But apparently now you can't even see me. Oh well, they can hear me.
Yes.
I'll try to fix it.
All right. So I'm trying to see. I think the audience. I don't think the audience has ever given a 1. Is that right? I feel like that might be right.
Think they have.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. I know that Rockstar had an overall price of $1 one week, but I believe the audience was the one holdout. Well, we just got a switch to the historical record here. There you go.
All right.
I believe that's there we go. It's true, says Alexandra. This is the first one given out by the audience.
Wow.
Very impressive, Fessy. So Fessy is there at $1 per share. If you think he's going to win the battle back, it could be an easy pickup there. Brent is finally back with us. Here we go. Let's move on to Kaycee. We were all pretty in the middle on Kaycee. She's been $7 or $6 for most of the season. She's down at 6 right now. I gave her a 6. Brent and Melissa, you both gave her 5s. The audience gave her a 6 last week. Melissa, where do you stand on Kaycee this week?
I feel a little better about her game this week, but I don't necessarily feel so confident that I could see her pulling out a win. I think that as we're getting down to it, a lot of people around her would win over her, besides maybe Sam. I feel like that's the one person where I'm like, absolutely not. Sam's not winning over Kaycee. But I feel like there's a lot of other people who, at this point in the game, could win over her and probably would. I think that while Angela is like kind of hated, I think people would respect her game. And I think that the fact that she's won HOHs and she's made these big moves and whatever, and Kaycee's really done nothing, I think that'll resonate with people. So I do feel better about her, but I don't feel that much better about her. So I'm going to give her a 6 instead of a 5.
All right. I feel very good about Kaycee, actually, especially with all of the talk of bitterness from Haleigh and Fessy mentioning Kaycee by name as somebody that they would want to vote for in order to be bitter. Obviously, this might not end up being true, but it's a very real reality, right? And the fact that I think there are 2 things here. I think Kaycee is probably the most likely to be sitting in one of the final 2 chairs.
Yes.
Maybe second most likely after Tyler, but potentially the most likely person. And given that fact, the fact that she could be sitting there and people have talked about voting for her, she also has pretty good relationships with people regardless of how they see her game. I think that she has a very, very real chance of winning this game. So that said, I don't think there's much that she is actively doing to get the win, which may be ultimately her downfall. And if people don't vote for her, it's likely because they don't see her as having done much in the game. So I gave Kaycee a 7 this week. I do feel like she is potentially the second most likely winner, person who can win the game. And I almost want to give her an 8, but I just feel like it's not quite there because I don't think she's going to do anything to help her own case. She'll have to kind of just coast into that spot. So 7 from me. Brent, how do you feel?
Well, as I've previously told the chat, I gave her an 8. I thought that's where you were headed, actually. I feel so much better about this girl's game from last week. I think, didn't I give her a 5 last week? Yep. I think I'm very swingy. Yeah. And I'm like that in life also. But I really do feel good because, as Taran said, I don't see many scenarios where she's not in the final 2 chairs. I just think it's a high likelihood that she is there. And if she is there, she has great social relationships with people. I know the chat's like, oh, how can you give her an 8? What? Come on. Look, her positioning within the game could not be better right now. Even the people that are going after her that would like to put her on the block, they don't even want to evict her. They're going after Angela. She's there by virtue of her circumstance in the game. Aside from that, I think her positioning in the game is absolutely perfect. I think even Tyler has a better percentage chance of going home before Kaycee. I think the only scenario where Kaycee goes home would be something like where Kaycee and Angela end up on the block. Maybe Tyler wins the veto, takes Angela down. Somehow they end up evicting Kaycee because it's like the Victoria scenario where if you end up on the block next to her, you're probably going to go home. So eventually you need to remove this piece off the game board. Otherwise, someday it's going to be you sitting on the block next to her. I think that's the only scenario where she goes home. I feel great about her chances of not only getting to the end, but also of winning based on what some of the other jurors have said, based on what the people in the House have said. However, I do think that I know that you were talking about this, and we talked about this previously on an update, Taran. The thing that Fessy and Haleigh said about, I'd vote for Kaycee over Angela, even though Angela's playing the better game. Number one, I don't know that that's going to hold. Number two, I think Kaycee's playing a better game than some people are giving her credit for. And the fact that she now has a comp win besides her hacker win, at least she's not going to go to the end and be like, I don't have any wins. I think that's really hard to vote for that person in the end if they don't have any wins. I think she's likely to get another win just by probability along the way. And if she has 2 or 3 wins at the end of the game with her social game, I think she wins. So that's why I gave her an 8.
Yeah, there you go. The audience, not quite as high on Kaycee as Brent or myself. They agree with Melissa. They gave Kaycee a 6 this week. Nice. Very close to a 7, but still a 6. And that is going to, I believe, lock her price in at $7 a share this week. Still remaining one of the most consistently priced stocks on the market. Let's move on to JC, who has pretty consistently been a little, above average. Last week, I gave him a 7, Brent an 8, Melissa a 7, and the audience was up at an 8. So how do we feel about JC this week? Brent, let's start with you.
I gave him an 8. I still feel great about his game. Obviously, I think that he's probably going to need to be taken to the end, not necessarily get to the end himself. But then again, he could win an endurance competition along the way. Some of these competitions are a little lucky, so he might win something like that. I was so glad to hear him talking to Brett. First talking to Tyler, then talking to Brett, saying, you know what? I know I'll be 4 if I go with Kaycee and Angela. But I don't want that. I was like, oh my God, that was like music to my ears. I don't know how you felt, Taran and Melissa, but I felt great about that. Just as a fan of the game, I was like, thank Christ, somebody's not happy.
Somebody cares.
They care about their positioning in the game right now, and they're not happy just to get to 4th place, or as Rockstar would tell you, 4th place money. She thought you get money for the longer you get in the game, like Survivor. So I feel really good about his game right now. I know that somebody, I think it was, I don't know, I don't want to assign it to the wrong person, Luna or the BB president on Twitter last night, they were talking about time of death of JC's game was like 7:29 when he was talking about putting Angela and Kaycee on the block, and he kept pushing it with Tyler. First of all, to my knowledge, Tyler hasn't divulged that to Angela and Kaycee, number one. And number two, I feel like it's something like Tyler's like, well, let's just put a pin in it. I mean, he's not going to go after JC anytime soon, not while Haleigh and some battleback person is in the house. So I feel like he's okay for right now. And I'm glad to see that he's playing for the win. mean, I don't care if I hate you. As long as you're playing for the win, that just makes me love you all the more. And I was thrilled to see that. So there you go.
I feel like I've been trying to tell you that I had more faith in JC than you had, and so I'm glad that you're seeing that.
Okay.
That
well,
faith
I'm on the train now.
Melissa, what do you think about JC's game?
I feel good about JC's game. I really like what he's doing. I like that he cares. I like that, he's, even though he's not part of level 6, even though he still hasn't figured out that there is a level 6, I think he sees his position in the game. And I think he sees what's going on around him. Maybe he hasn't put a label on it. Maybe he hasn't done that. But I do think that he's got a really good read on what's going on and what he needs to do moving forward. I like his thoughts on how the Tangela showmance is not great for him and how he doesn't want it to happen. But I think that him putting it out there so much to Tyler and being like, you need to get rid of her, is not good. But I think I like what he's doing, so I'm going to give him an 8.
Good.
Yeah. I like what JC is doing as well. And I think it's underreported how just conventionally good he is at this game, in terms of he's been preparing for this shift moment in his game. He spent the last couple of weeks working on Brett in anticipation for the moment where he dumps Fessy, and now he's worked up to the point where he's able to pitch Brett, hey, we should get rid of Angela, and Brett, who is in an alliance with Angela that JC doesn't even realize, he doesn't even know about, he doesn't need to know about it because he's worked his relationships to the point where he's able to pitch this. The only person that JC is really unable to get a great read on is Tyler, and it's kind of easy to excuse that given that Tyler is probably the best player in the game right now. And so if that's the one person he's not able to fool, then he's still in a pretty decent spot. So I like what JC is doing a lot. I would be giving him an 8, but I feel, again, like this battle back is going to be a major hindrance to his plans. And that's because he has taken the step forward with Brett. Brett knows about the plan to target Angela. It's a tricky one to manage because Brett is part of a secret alliance with Angela and has been loyal to her the entire season. And it's very, in the same way that it was tough to make sure that Haleigh and Fessy stayed with the plan to target Scottie for a long period of time. It's very tricky once say Scottie comes back into the game and it becomes level 6 versus the Faute people again, and there's going to be an entire week where Brett is working very closely with level 6 again, and he's got to keep his mouth shut about this plan for another whole week. That's really dangerous, and it could leak out from Brett at that point that JC was planning something, and that would not be good for JC, not to mention the fact that Scottie, the most likely person to return to the game, definitely has it out for JC. He has mentioned in his exit interviews that he feels like JC is playing the best game in the house. These are all very bad things that could come from the battle back for JC, despite the good positioning and maneuvering. So I ended up giving JC a 7, the same as last week.
I also do worry about his apparent inability to get rid of Tyler. Like, he just loves Tyler, and I don't know that he would ever do anything against him. By the way, I'm being corrected in the chat. Apparently, they did change the rules. Evil Dick tweeted out that they do give extra money for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. However, it's a far cry from 1st and 2nd, which is $500,000 and $50,000. I'm being told that it's $10,000, $7,500, and $5,000 for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I know that they get like $1,000 for stipends each year, or $1,000 a week for stipend every week. So I'm sure it's a little extra money, but again, it's nothing compared to what's at the end. So I'm glad to see that JC is taking the initiative and fighting for one of those final 2 chairs.
All right. Well, the audience is of a very different mind than to us with JC. They gave him an 8 last week down to a 6 this week.
Wow,
they feel like his stock price has tanked here a bit. Maybe not completely tanked, but has definitely drooped. And I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have many theories. I guess just the
they
overall...
want to see him in the final. They want to see him nominated. They're just like us. They're like, I love what JC's doing in the game, but I'm also kind of sick of him. Like, I want him to feel the heat. It's kind of like how I feel with Tyler right now, where I'm like, I can see he's doing well within the game, but I want to see him nominated just because he's so cocky right now.
Yeah, I guess last week they were coming off of him getting Scottie on the block, which was very impressive.
Which was amazing.
And then
right.
this week it's been coming off of a week of him like whining at Tyler about Angela. So maybe that's where this is coming from. But very low on Fessy comparatively at the very least. On JC. So JC's stock is going to come in at $7 this week. There you go. Let's talk about Tyler. I gave him the first 10 of the season of the stock watch in general last week. The highest rating that you can get. Brent and Melissa, you both gave him 9s. Has your opinion changed since last week? Where do you see Tyler's game this week, Melissa?
I feel less good about him this week. It's tough because every week it's very relative with Tyler. I feel like with everyone else, it's like it's up and down and they're good and they're bad. And Tyler's like pretty consistent. So it's just minor little things that we're looking at now. And I feel worse about his game because of the Tangela thing. I think that hurts him a lot. And I think it takes his eyes off the prize. And I think that some other relationships around him are starting to slack a little bit. I think that was... I don't think that this is good for his game to be in this relationship with Angela. So I feel less confident this week. Not a ton, but, just a little. So I'm going to give him an 8.
All right. Brent?
Yes. I also gave him an 8. I don't feel as good about his game, and I do feel like his relationships with other people have suffered a little bit. However, the thing is, I keep asking myself, who's coming for him, and how does he eventually go home? Nobody that I can see right now, especially with the battle back on the horizon. The only way I really see for him to go home is for him to be nominated necessarily with, like, Angela. Like, say Fessy comes back in and nominates Tyler and Angela. Angela wins the veto. Kaycee ends up on the block, and everybody looks at everybody and says, "Are we really going to evict Kaycee? Let's evict Tyler." So I don't know. And Kaycee obviously would be a vote for Tyler if she wasn't on the block. So her being on the block, I feel like would be the only way he could go home. Stacked actually asked me a question about Tyler, which I wanted to bring up. Stack says, "Is it possible that Tyler is snuggling so much with Angela to make it possible for them both to go on the block, but somebody else sends Angela out instead of him?" I think that's called fan fiction, Stacked. I think there's no universe where Tyler wants to be on the block or is even planning for that possibility. I feel like that he just is thinking with the wrong head at this point, and he wants to spend some time with Angela. And he doesn't really care because he's very comfortable within the Big Brother game right now. I feel like the Tyler from week 2 or 3 would not do this, but the Tyler that we've seen evolve over the course of the game, who's basically been getting his way, whether you think it's by luck or through skill or happenstance or what have you, he's comfortable. And you saw him like in the diary room a couple of days ago. He's like, things are great in the Big Brother house when things are going your way. If I was in the Big Brother house, I would never say something like that because I know from past experience that when people say that in the diary room, I hate those people. Like you never like the person who's getting everything in the Big Brother house, unless it's Janelle. Okay. And Tyler, Janelle.
Well, so, I think at this point, Tyler knows that he's trolling people like you.
Okay. Well, then I like him more. But not as things currently stand. So no, Stacked. I do not believe there's any part of that is. I don't think this is planning from Tyler. I do think the one part that I will give up to you is that I do think that Tyler is like, I want Angela gone, but I really don't want to have to be the one to do it. So hopefully it works out that way. But at this point, he's just hoping for the best.
Yes. I I wanted to give Tyler an 8 because I don't like a lot of what he's been doing in the house. I feel like he is getting distracted with Angela. I feel like sending Fessy out over Haleigh is a mistake. I think the battle back will hurt him to some degree. But when I thought about it, it was just like, you're right, Brent. How does he leave? Who is he even coming for him? Nobody. Everybody would be targeting Angela first if they even thought about targeting Tyler. And even if they did think about targeting Tyler, they probably wouldn't. And even if they did, he wouldn't go home. I honestly don't see him going home next to Kaycee. I think that he would have Angela's vote. I think he would have JC's vote. He would only need one more. And look, you probably got Sam too. At that point, you're safe. So I don't think he goes home next to Kaycee. I don't think there's again, I think that something major would have to change in the game where his final twos get exposed or something major happens in order to change the entire dynamic of the house in order for him to leave. So I feel like he's basically completely safe, regardless of what happens with the battle back. It just might hinder his game just a tad. And I just feel like so many people want to take him to the end. They don't want to target him anytime soon. So it's hard to go as low as an 8, even though I do want to, because I am disappointed with him. Obviously, I gave him a 10 last time, and I said with some caveats that there are some flaws that I could see expanding into bigger flaws, and I do think that's happened, and that's why I gave him a 9 this week. But it's potentially on a downward trend here. If this stuff continues, if he catches some bad breaks, I think he's left himself open and vulnerable to some things. But again, it's like with Tyler, being open and vulnerable to things means, like a setback, as opposed to everybody else in the house where it's like, if something goes wrong, I've lost the entire game and I'm going home. So it's really an entirely different class, and that's why I have to continue to give him a 9 this week. The audience did come close to giving Tyler a 9, but in the end went with an 8 this week. So Tyler's stock here is going to go down from $9 to 8 this week. So,
by the way, the chat's asking about the cloud app. First of all, I think you should get a cash prize for like having that thing for 2 months and not ever having to use it. I feel like number one, but they're cheap, so whatever. Number two, if Sam eventually reveals that he had the cloud power, I don't think it's going to hurt him at all. He's going to be say like, look, I basically told you guys that's why I was trying to use it to protect us for the veto. I used it to try to get Sam's vote. It didn't work, but it was all for us. That's why I said if I'm nominated, you guys have to make sure they backdoor me. That way I can protect us. So no, there's no way that's going to come home to roost as far as his chickens.
Yes. So let's talk about Brett, who is definitely in an interesting spot here, especially given the fact that he is considering turning on level 6, making his move, which I do believe he has to do. It's really just a matter of when, and it's also a matter of, is he correct when he's studying, because that makes a huge difference. I do think that he's a big endgame threat with the competitions and with the jury vote, but I think that Tyler recognizes that, and I think that the rest of level 6 recognizes that. So it's a very tricky tightrope to walk for Brett. He has to decide when is the right time to target my own alliance. When is the time to make that move? The battle back is definitely going to set him back in that regard. And again, I feel like he is one of the people that the battle back is going to harm. I think that people like Kaycee and Sam are the ones that benefit the most from a battle back. Most other people's games are going to most likely be impacted in a negative way. Obviously, the person coming back into the game is going to hugely benefit as well. But Brett might be harmed in the sense that if, say, Scottie came back, Brett could be the one that is sacrificed from level 6. They would definitely try to shift the target onto him if it had to be one of them. And it also interrupts his plans to take the shot. The question is this the right time to take the shot for Brett? Yeah. Is he thinking along the right lines right now? Melissa, you're saying yes.
I think that's the question, is that he needs to be super careful, because he can't turn too early, but he also can't turn too late. It has to be the exact right time. And that's got to be super tricky to figure out, because he doesn't know about a battle back. He doesn't know of that Tyler is really targeting him. He doesn't know where he really stands. I mean, he can kind of see it, but he doesn't know exactly where he stands and what Tyler's plan is and when Tyler wants to take him out or when his other alliance members want to take him out. So I think that's going to be what Brett's game turns on. And I'm a little nervous. I hope he can, figure it out and pull it through. But I think he's the most expendable to them out of their alliance. And I think that that's not really a good position to be in. So while I think Brett is playing a really good game right now, and I like what he's doing, and I like that he's entertaining JC's idea and not just saying, no, they're my alliance. Like, no, I'm not listening to this. I like the fact that he's, mixing and mingling with other people. I'm really a fan of what he's doing, but this battle pack is happening, and I don't know if that's going to really be great for his game. So I think I'm just going to stick with my rating from last week and still give him a 7.
All right. Brent, what do you think?
I gave him an 8, and I may be overrating his chances a little bit, but I was so glad, like JC, to hear that he is being he's trying to be self-interested in the game and trying to move himself forward. He's not level 6 to the end. I was feeling great about that. I know there's the possibility of a battle back that could harm him, but I don't feel like he would show his cards until the results of the HOH became clear. And, he's certainly not going to show them before the battle back happens. So I know that the plan's out there, but ultimately it was JC's plan, not Brett's plan. So I don't think JC's going to tell anybody. He tried telling Tyler, and he tried to get Tyler on board with the plan, and Tyler said no. So JC knows that that's not a possibility. So, and he's never going to tell Angela and Kaycee themselves. So I feel like that the plan is going to be fine. Like, no one's going to out it right now. I feel like in some ways that Brett is the perfect Big Brother player because he knows when the right time is to jump. The question is just, will he do it? I have faith in his ability to do so. I felt great about his conversation yesterday. I know there's a possibility he could be targeted if Scottie comes back in the house. But I also feel like he might even be able to get out of that. And look, let's be clear. Level 6, even though Brett is 4 out of 4, they don't want him to go anywhere right now. They want him to stay in the house. So if he ended up on the block next to Sam or Haleigh or even JC, I feel like that they would keep him. I feel like it would take some doing to get him out of the house. So I felt good about his game and his position, and I gave him an 8. I don't know how you feel about Taran.
I feel pretty good about Brett. I feel better than I did last week, for sure. I think that his talk with Tyler during the veto competition was good for him overall.
Yes.
I think that the fact that he's got JC and he's willing to make this move, I think that's all good stuff. I think that Brett really could come in here and steal the win away from Tyler or from the rest of Level 6. I think that's a very real possibility, but I do still feel like he's got kind of a tough road ahead of him. So I did go up from a 6 to a 7 this week. I think he's got some good amount of outs here, but he's still gonna have to win some competitions. He still doesn't have any real ride or die allies, which is gonna be an issue for him moving forward. But I gave him a 7. The audience agrees with me and Melissa. The audience gave Brett a 7. So Brett is going to stay here at $7. He went week 6. He jumped from 5 to 7. That's when he really started to kick it into gear. I think he was very average, and then it was like, hey, he's learning the game. He's got something going on here. So there you go for Brett. Finally, we have to talk about Sam, who's
we have to
really just been doing nothing. Maybe her odds have increased because Haleigh and Fessy talked about giving it to her as bidder votes. That's something, right, Melissa?
Oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what she's doing, and yet at the same time, I can't give her a 1 because she's probably gonna end up near the end. So I don't know. I don't really have that much to say about her. I think we all know what's going on. So I'm just going to keep my rating the same and give her a 2.
Yep, I gave her a 2 as well. I don't think there's any chance she makes it to the end because ultimately these competitions come down to what you know in the Big Brother game and your ability to recall what's been happening in the house. There's no way she's going to win a competition like that. I'm sorry. She did win an endurance competition. I think she would win part 1 if she got to the end, but there's no way they're going to let her get there. So I gave her a 2, and yes, she could win if she gets to the end. Her path though is totally, it's just not there. There's no way. Okay, here's the thing. I can paint the picture for Sam to get to the end. Okay, let's do it. So somebody comes back into the house. Let's say it's Scottie, and Haleigh, Scottie decide to target Angela and Kaycee because that's what JC also wants them to do. So a little war starts. So they get rid of one of them. So now it's like say Kaycee, Tyler, and Brett left in the house fighting against Scottie, Haleigh, and parts of JC, although he's still kind of loyal to Tyler. I feel like that continues to go on for a little while, and maybe Sam is in the middle and nobody pays attention to her until they get down to Final Four. Then they might be in a position where, like on Survivor during San Juan del Sur, where they would like to get Natalie out of the game at 4, but they have to get rid of Keith because he's the real jury threat, so now they have to keep her in the game, and Sam gets to the Final 3, wins part 1, part 3 is a crapshoot, she gets to the end of the game and wins. That's the best way I can see for Sam to get to the end, but it's not necessarily viable, so a 2 it is.
All right. I also gave her a 2. I feel like, yes, there's an increased chance that there's a bitter jury, but I also feel like there's less of a chance that anyone takes her to the end. There's a growing sentiment in the house that she is getting close to everyone that leaves the game. And so people are starting to think that she is a jury threat, which means she won't really get dragged to the end as a GOAT. I don't think that's a likely scenario at this point. So while I do feel like she may have some outs to win if she somehow gets there, I feel like she's less likely to get there, so I went with a 2 this week. The audience, though, gave her a 3 last week and stayed with their 3 this week. They just refused to go below that 3 line. So
Suckers!
Same ratings across the board here for Sam. And that's it. That's our ratings for the week. Now it's time to buy or sell. All
right.
I don't
it's
know.
Melissa's turn to go first.
All right,
this time because it was Taran, then Melissa, then me. So it's Melissa's turn. Let me bring up the chart here because I need to see what the prices are for everything. So can you tell us the final prices, Taran, if you can?
So I believe these are these are last week's prices, I think. Hold on. The final prices right now, Angela at $7, Haleigh at $3, Fessy at $1, Kaycee at $7, JC at $7, Tyler at $8, Brett at $7, and Sam at $2.
So JC is at what right now? I'm sorry.
7.
7, and Casey's at
7 as well.
7. So Angela at $7, along with Kaycee and JC and Brett. They're all at $7. Tyler's at $8. Haleigh's at $3. Fessy's at $1. And I didn't even have Fessy on the list. That's why I got screwed up. And Sam at $2. Okay, so Melissa, you are up to bat.
Darn, do I have to go first?
Yes, you have to go first. It's your turn to go first. Sorry, you have $16 to spend here, so you could purchase one. You have to purchase at least one, but you could purchase more, and you could also sell if you're not feeling great about anything that you currently have.
Do I have a Fessy stock?
You do not. Tarrant does. Haha.
Okay. Then I think I'm just gonna buy 2 Tylers.
All right. So previously you were slacking in the Tyler stock. You only had 1, and me and Taran each had 3. So now you are with us in the Tyler buys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, I this is so tough for me. This is why, because I have to go next because Taran went first last week. And I am I'm trying to look up to see if there's anybody that I want to sell. Actually, you know what? I'm going to sell my Angela stock. I don't believe in her anymore. So I'm going to sell my Angela stock, which is it's selling currently at $7. So I'm going to get $4 back from that. And that's going to leave me with $19. Sorry, I'm just looking at anything else to see if there's anything else I want to sell. What I really want to do Sorry, is Kaycee selling at 7 or 6? I can't see the thing.
She's at 7. Yeah, the current form is updating. Alexander says it's updating very slowly. So
okay. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just making sure I'm looking at the right thing.
Yeah, it also has week 8 prices and not week 9.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have $19 and I would like to buy. See, I'm in a pickle because I would like to protect my position with Tyler because I do feel like he is a possible winner. But I'm also thinking that Kaycee is also a possible winner. Those are the two people that I believe in at the moment. Or I could take a lead in Brett's stock right now. And you know, I'm going to go with my old adage that I'm going to buy the people that I really want to win. That way I feel great when they ultimately do win. So I'm going to buy 2 purchases of Brett stock, which is selling at $7 right now, which will leave me at $5 going into next week. And that, for the moment, puts me in the lead with Brett as far as stock goes. With 4 shares, Melissa has 2 and Taran has 1.
All right. Okay, so we've got the prices up here. I'm looking at what to do here. All right. So first of all, I have some Haleigh shares, or I have a Haleigh share. I'm gonna go ahead and sell the Haleigh because I don't need any of that. And
Melissa, you have Haleigh as well. You have 2 shares of Haleigh, by the way. So you may want to think about that later if you can.
So I'm gonna go ahead and sell that. I'm also going to sell my Fessy stock because what am I doing with that?
What are you doing?
So I'm gonna sell those as well, and let's see, I'm going to buy a Tyler, make sure I have a lead there. In fact, I can buy 2 Tylers, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna buy 2 Tylers at $8.
Okay.
Then
what do you mean then? You don't have any money left.
Well, I don't even. I can still sell here.
Okay.
I am also going to go ahead and I'm gonna sell my Brett. I'm gonna sell my Brett. Yes, I feel like $7. I feel like it might go down from here. I want to get my maximum value from Brett. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell him. And I think that means that I can buy 1. No, I can't. Kaycee's too expensive. All right. So I think I'll end it there.
Yeah. I think I want to sell my Haleigh. If I sell my Haleigh, then I get $2 back for each, right? Because we're rounding up.
Or $1.50 back for each. Well, I don't know how it does it. So does it do it individually or together, Alexandra?
I
think the board will tell us.
Yes, we will find out as soon as the math updates.
So Melissa's going to sell her 2 shares of Haleigh because she no longer believes in her.
Well, I'm gonna sell my 2 shares if I can then get $4.
Oh, she wants $4 for it. So does she get? She this is a contingent sale apparently.
Yes, the contingent sale. I think it is. Alexandra says individually.
All right. So yes.
Individually.
So I think I would then get 4.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have $4. What can you do with $4 though?
Nothing, but I can save it for next week.
Oh, okay.
I just am concerned that she's going to go down, and then my stock will be worth less, and I'll just get $2. I might as well do it now because I feel like if her stock goes down, and then we're like, oh, we should buy her, then I can buy her for $1 or whatever next week. So not a big deal.
I sold her at $3 because I figured that was probably the maximum value I would get from the Haleigh shares there. All right, so there we go. That is the stock watch trading for the week. I made some bold moves, but hopefully they'll pay off for me. All right.
Yeah, I don't like my position because I only have a lead in one person at this point. I have a lead in Brett stock, but I'm trailing in Tyler stock and I'm trailing in Kaycee stock, and I don't even own a JC stock. So I'm like, where the hell did all my money go? I'm like every person who invests in the stock market. Where'd Where'd my money?
Yeah,
All the people who invested in Bitcoin in December. They're like, where'd my money go?
You gotta make smart trades here.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the stock watch. We still have some statistics to go over from the forums, though, that we can talk about. First and foremost, of course, I asked everybody, who is your favorite player? This has been pretty consistently Tyler, and it remains consistently Tyler here, with about 48% of the vote. That's been pretty consistent all season long, I believe. In second place, with a growing number of votes, I believe, hold on, second place last week was Brett with 19% of the vote. This time it is Brett again with almost 24% of the vote. So the Brett fan base is growing, Melissa.
Wow. Very impressive.
Yes.
It makes sense, though. I feel like I would be, if I was voting in this, I think I'd be torn between Tyler and Brett for who's my favorite. So it makes sense to me.
All right. Well, JC was in third place last week with about 10% of the vote, and he remains in basically the exact same spot this week in third place with about 10% of the vote. Scottie was in fourth place last week with 8% of the vote, so his votes had to go somewhere, and it looks like they went to Angela. Angela is in fourth place with a bit over 7% of the vote, followed by Haleigh with about 6.5% of the vote, and then of course Fessy. Oh, you know, Fessy, he got 5 votes this time.
Aww.
Yay! That was his mom and his 4 sisters. Thank you.
Where was Kaycee in it?
Kaycee is in third to last with 28 votes total, about 2% of the votes, and Sam has 17 votes, about 1%.
By the way, I just want to say really quickly about Brett that I see why people like him, because I like him very much. 2 things. Number one, I love the fact I think it was last week, maybe we forgot to mention it, that he was talking to the other house guests about the fact that anal lice was something that he put in, and he was really hoping that it made the edit, which it did, of course, and we're all talking about it. And number 2, he was talking about his goodbye messages, and they were talking about the potential for a battle back, and he was like, oh, and, if Rockstar comes back in the house, I really let her have it in that goodbye message, but oh well, I gave the people what they wanted. And I love people that play like that. I feel like you're more authentic when you just play like that. If you're not really good at, throwing the bullshit out there, I feel like that you're not, it doesn't even help you to do it. And I don't feel like Brett can do that. I feel like he knows his lane about what he's good at and how he charms people, sort of with his self-aware douchiness, and I feel like that's why he could win the game. So and that's why I think he's the odds-on favorite to get America's favorite player if he doesn't make the final 2.
I think so too.
It's definitely possible. I'm looking back at last week, close to around 1,800 votes total last week, and so that's even after we talked about it last week. Still, Fessy did not receive a single one of those 1,800 votes for favorite player last week. So glad he got 5 votes this time. Also, I forgot to mention with the battle back and the stock watch. No, we're not rating the potential battle back players, but once and we cannot sell or buy them until they return to the game. So the person that returns to the game, if you had any active shares in that person. So for instance, if we go back to the stock watch here, if you're watching along in the video, you can see that Brent owned 2 shares of Bayleigh stock, and Melissa owned 1 share of Bayleigh. So if Bayleigh came back into the game, or comes back into the game on Thursday night, then those shares will reactivate, and they will be priced at whatever we decide to price Bayleigh at. But as of right now, you cannot buy or sell any of those shares until the person comes into the game. If they don't come into the game, those shares are dead and gone. They will not return. So keep that in mind.
Okay. By the way, I love that Vista in the chat is saying that Fessy's 5 votes came from people who liked your impression of him, Taran. That's I'm bitter he's going to leave most likely because we won't get to hear anymore. Taran, that's the one impression that has not annoyed me for some reason. I think it's just because I hate Fessy so much. I love hearing you make fun of him.
That's
defeats the purpose.
It's failed me.
That's failed you.
Okay. I need Kaitlyn back. All right. I of course asked the audience, who do you want to be evicted this week? 65% of them said Fessy. About 35% said Haleigh. I'm guessing that most people prefer Haleigh to Fessy, but most people see that Haleigh's the better option for level 6. There's still a lot of level 6 fans in the audience, so that would be my guess for why that is the case. I didn't ask the Faute versus level 6 question anymore because I feel like we're done. We're done with that. I could ask Bayleigh versus maybe next time I'll ask Bayleigh versus Tangela or something. So I also asked, along with those other questions about the battle back that we answered earlier, who do you want to win the battle back? No, I already answered that question. Sorry.
You already answered it. Moving on. Dementia's coming in.
Yes. So I also asked about Scottie's jury vote. Where do we think Scottie's jury vote is going to fall? I had you guys rank them in order of most likely to receive the vote to least likely to receive the vote. Unsurprisingly, for the third juror member in a row, Haleigh in at number 1. I think we can all agree that Haleigh is getting his jury vote over anybody.
Yep, definitely.
Number 2 was Tyler. People feel like Tyler is second most likely to receive Scottie's jury vote. Do we agree with this, Melissa?
I think I do. I think I could see him giving his vote. I don't think that he felt super betrayed by Tyler or anything like that. I still see Scottie as thinking that Tyler would work with him. And that's, I think that plus he would respect his game. So I do think that Tyler would get his vote.
All right. Brent, do you agree with that? Tyler, second most likely?
I think it's a toss-up between him and JC, and also he seems still enamored by Brett. So I feel like all of those people are possibilities for Scottie's second place preference. But I don't care enough to fight against Tyler. I'll put it that way.
Yes, I agree. I think Haleigh's number 1 easily. I do think that JC might be number 2, but it depends on what he learns in the jury house and how much he ends up respecting. He did say in his interviews that he felt like JC was playing the best game, but that might change when he finds out that JC was not a part of level 6, at which point he might respect Tyler more. So Tyler probably number 2 there. The audience decided Brett next after Tyler above JC. That I probably disagree with. I think that he'd probably vote for JC over Brett, but I do think that Brett could very easily receive the vote as well. I think all 3 of these guys are pretty equally likely to receive the vote. I wouldn't begrudge it. And I also think they're very unlikely to be sitting next to each other in the final 2 regardless. Then the audience, in a very, very close vote, chose Kaycee over Angela for the next 2 picks here. I feel like Scottie would vote for Angela over Kaycee. I feel pretty confident about that one.
I feel pretty confident about that as well. Good job, audience.
Well, no, the audience
they said Kaycee, right?
Bad job, audience.
Good job, Taran.
Sorry. Then they said Sam second to last and Fessy dead last. Which
I mean, I feel like if Fessy actually got to the end, I feel like that he would he really was a super genius mastermind the whole time. But given that he's not going to make it to the end, I don't care. Whatever.
And also unless Fessy is sitting next to Haleigh will be in the jury with Scottie telling him you should be voting for Fessy, and I feel like Scottie might do that.
That's true.
I feel like Fessy being last is maybe not quite where he should be, but
I agree.
It's very hard to tell because it's very contextual. It's what makes the jury predictions so hard to do. It's just difficult stuff. But
we're trying to quantify it this season because they're usually unpredictable. But I have a feeling at the end we're going to look at this and go, What were we thinking?
Yeah, there you go. Then the other questions mostly unchanged. Rockstars, I felt like pretty funny in terms of the numbers. Haleigh and Fessy, the easy number 2s. Brett and Angela, or number 1 and 2. Brett and Angela were the bottom 2, and then Sam, JC, Kaycee, and Tyler, all within decimal points of each other in the middle. People do not know where her vote is going to fall between those 4 people. And then Bayleigh's is relatively unchanged for the moment. We're going to get a lot of information, I imagine. We might get a jury segment, and then we're going to get the battle back itself, where we'll hear from the jurors and their thoughts on the people in the house, and then one of them will come back, of course. So we'll hopefully have a lot of information for next week. There
was just an earthquake here, just by the way.
Oh my.
I was just like, it was very, very small, but I was like, I feel it. Like if you like rewind, if you could see me just like look up, then I just checked online and everyone's like, earthquake, right? But yeah, SLA for you.
Is Rob still there? I want to make sure I'm still employed.
I know, right? But yeah, I was just like, I like froze for a second. I was like, something's going on. Okay. We're good here.
All right.
It's a podcast of firsts. First earthquake while podcasting.
Yeah.
For the Roundtable podcast.
Reminds me of that clip from Big Brother. What was it? Big Brother 10 or something, when the earthquake happened and they all like run outside. That was crazy.
Crazy stuff. Yeah. So anyway, very, very interested to find out how these predictions change after we get some more information next week. I expect that we'll get a few different changes at the very least. So look out for that moving forward. All right. Now, the only thing left to do here is we've got some questions. You guys want to answer some questions?
Always.
All right. We have one from Shadid, who wants to know, if Bayleigh comes back into the house, what do you think her next move should be, or will be? I guess those are 2 different questions.
Will be, should be. Yeah.
Maybe we can answer both questions.
Yeah, I mean, her move should be to target Tyler, and I don't know how she goes about doing that. I feel like her probable inclination would be to put him up next to somebody strong like Brett, but of course we know that Brett would likely go home in that instance. I feel like that she should put him up next to Kaycee or Angela. The thing is, I feel like that he probably goes home next to Kaycee. I know that you are of the opinion that Sam would necessarily vote to keep him next to Kaycee, but I don't know if that's the case, especially with all the Angela.
It would have to be Sam and Brett both deciding to vote against Tyler, while JC
keeping
does the
Kaycee
opposite.
in the house with Angela. Okay,
and yeah, I feel like it's not really likely at all.
Okay, well then let's move on past that. I don't know what the correct move then should be. I guess it should probably be putting up Angela and Kaycee and pretending to like Tyler again. But I don't know. Oh yeah, let me deal with this idiot in the chat. Sorry.
It's tricky because she needs, like, you need to get Tyler out, but it's gotten to the point where how do you get him out? She would need to not only put Tyler up, but be able to play the actual game of Big Brother well enough to make people turn against him, which obviously somebody like Tyler could do, but could Bayleigh do that? Not particularly likely. So what is her best move? It probably would be to act buddy with Tyler and then just try to simultaneously take out one of his main allies, and then hope that that changes his game plan. And you gotta try to survive at this point if you're Bayleigh, because you're really on the outside. She's been out of the house for like 3 weeks. There's not a lot you can do, and that's one of the reasons again why I don't like the battle backs that much. Is like she comes in and she's like what can she do? There's really not much. What will she do is another question. I do think she would target Tyler and Angela. I feel like those are the 2. She would probably put them both on the block, and then if nothing changed, I do think Angela would probably go home if she had the HOH. If she doesn't win the HOH, then it's really she'll just buddy up with Haleigh again, and then she'll try to buddy up with Angela again, and she'll get sent home again. That's probably what will happen.
Sounds like it.
All right. John wants to know, let's assume Tyler, JC, or Brett wins the game. based on what we've seen and what may happen, where would you rank the three of them amongst other notable winners, or in what range of winners would you place them? So JC, Brett, Tyler, based on what we've seen so far, how would we view them as winners? Melissa, what do you think?
I think they all three would be in the top half. I think they all three are doing impressive things and playing impressive games, and I wouldn't be disappointed in any of them winning. So I really do think that there's a lot of people worse than them who have won the game. So, yeah, I would put them in the top half.
Yep, I also would as well. I feel like in some ways the season helps you as well. It's been a really fantastic season with a really awesome alliance. And although JC is not part of this alliance and Brett and Tyler are, I feel like he has been doing a lot of work for the alliance, to the point where Angela and Brett were both feeling bad that he's not in the alliance because he's done so much for them. Even though I know at one time they were sort of poo-pooing the fact that he was like, oh, do you notice that JC says we a lot? And they were, annoyed at that. But on the other hand, they do acknowledge how much work he has put in. And he has, he's the hardest working man in the Big Brother house. Make no mistake about it. Even though Tyler has been playing really immaculately for the most part, I feel like in some ways he's been able to coast based on his previous good weeks of play. But JC never takes his foot off the gas. Again, if you guys are fans of the show, you should be so happy that JC is not playing for 5th, 4th place or whatever, or just for a good show. He's here to win or get into the final 2, and I'm so psyched about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I think that, again, based on what we've seen so far, this could change in a negative way, or it could change in an even more positive way theoretically. But based on what we've seen so far, I think if Tyler wins, he's probably in the top 4. I think he's up there with Derek in terms of
top 5.
About
as
about as well as you can play without having done it a second time. If JC or Brett win, I think they are in the potential top 5, top 6 kind of category. I think that if they won, it would likely be because they managed to outmaneuver Tyler, which would be an impressive feat in and of itself, not to mention all of the work they've done so far to get where they are. So I think they would also be easily top tier winners. If it turned out to be Kaycee, I think she's probably basically middle of the road. If it was Angela, I think she'd be slightly above average. And is anyone else even winning? I don't know. I don't think so.
Hey, Laziness in the chat said the winner is the one who cuts Tyler. Do you agree with that? See, I don't necessarily feel like that. I feel like I say again the house does not. It's not like Vanessa. Like you guys and me and people who are watching the show are seeing Tyler the same way as we saw Vanessa during 17, where it was the obvious person who you needed to get rid of to win the game. I don't feel like the house sees Tyler that way right now. They may later on, but I don't feel like they see him that way right now. And so I don't feel like you have to get Tyler out or even be the one to get him out in order to win the game.
Yeah. All right. Carnage wants to know, what is the path to a Brett victory? So if Brett did win the game, how do we see it happening? Obviously, with this battle back looming, from my point of view, I'm assuming that Scottie comes back in. I'm assuming he doesn't win the veto, and then probably just goes right back out. At which point, does Brett make the move? That's the question. Does he try to make the move? I'm going to say no, because he has to both win HOH and still make the move after a whole week. So I'm thinking Haleigh probably leaves after Scottie, at which point then Brett needs to be the time. He makes the move. He takes a shot at Angela. He takes Angela out of the game. Now he's a big target, but yeah, that's the problem. He needs to do it before Haleigh leaves. So he needs to take the shot before Haleigh leaves, because if Haleigh is gone, then he's the only target in the house. With Haleigh in the house, she's a big jury threat. People will still need to take a shot at her as well. So there's some kind of way to escape the target. So he'd need to take a shot before Haleigh leaves, take Angela out of the game, make sure he's got JC on board for at least a couple more weeks, and then he's gonna have to win some competitions. Maybe even team up with Haleigh and then cut her close to the end if he's able to. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, it's a tough road and it involves a lot of competition wins. But I do think that basically what Brett needs to do is win the double eviction HOH and send Angela home, or Kaycee actually. It would actually honestly thinking about it, it would be better if he sent Kaycee home, because Kaycee is who everyone wants to take to the, or at least who Tyler wants to take to the end. And if he takes Kaycee out, then that dramatically changes Tyler's plans, which can only help him because he's not involved in many of Tyler's late end game plans. So
plus people see Tyler and Angela as something.
Exactly.
When I think that less people see Tyler and Kaycee as something. They see Kaycee and Angela as something and Tyler and Angela as something. And I think that if they take out Angela, everyone will be like, okay, cool, we're good. We took out the main connector here, even though they didn't. So I think that yeah, if Kaycee goes out, then at least JC is still like freaked out about the whole Tyler and Angela thing, and everyone's still looking at them, and so they're still a big target together. So yeah, even though it seems like Angela should be the one taken out first, I think Kaycee should be the one taken out.
I think the problem is the only way to get the only person Kaycee goes home against is Tyler. So he'd have to nominate Kaycee against Tyler, I think, in order to get her out, which would certainly piss Tyler off. But I think he'd be pissed off anyway. So I think if he wins the double eviction HOH, put up Kaycee and Tyler, or maybe put up Angela and Kaycee, and then if you win the veto, use it. Or if Angela wins the veto, then great. Like whatever it takes. Hopefully Tyler won't get the veto. But I think he has to try to get Kaycee out of the house. I think that's his best path toward a win.
Which I feel like I don't see that. If I was in the house, I feel like I wouldn't see that. I wouldn't see like, okay, the one I have to get out is Kaycee. I don't feel like that would be my thought at all. So, I mean, the odds of this happening are very slim. Yeah.
It's a tough path. It's a tough road, but we'll see if he can get there. Brent, are you on board with everything we've been saying?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that it was just, well, I mean, what I was thinking, honestly, was the fact that I have 4 Brett stocks, and I'm looking at how hard his road is. Basically, he needs to leap at the right time, and then Winston comes. I know, right? I'm like, oh my God, can I have that back? But no, I'm like, I always pick the hard road. Then look, if it comes, if it
happens.
Basically, if my horse comes in after I bet on him, then I feel even better about it. So I don't mind sticking with Brett. I'm cool.
All right. Cindy wants to know, what's the trick to not getting voted out immediately upon returning to the game? Because it definitely happens a lot. Is there a trick? Is there a way to avoid
I feel like it happens
being voted out?
More than not. That the people who come back do not get voted out next. Usually people are so on to the next target that like the person comes back is like, hey, this is usually what the person comes back does, unless they win HOH, which of course is I don't think that's ever happened. They're like, look, everybody voted me out, so I'm evicted, so I don't owe anybody anything. I have no grudges against anybody. I feel good with everybody, and usually that sort of feel-good moment carries over to the point where they might be nominated as a pawn, but I don't feel like they have any fresh blood in the game. Somebody like Haleigh would, because people are coming for Haleigh's blood right now. So I don't feel like they would want to evict, say, Scottie over Haleigh. I feel like they'd want to get rid of Haleigh, or if Bayleigh came back into the game, I feel like they'd want to get rid of Haleigh because that's who they, for lack of a better phrase, have a hard-on for at this point. They want her out of the game. So I feel like whoever comes back in probably gets a week off, but we'll see.
Let's go over it. I mean, in terms of returning players, we had Amy first in Big Brother 3. She lasted a little while, but that was mostly because she was such a non-threat, right? She's a pawn to be used. It wasn't her time when she came back in, so she lasted a little while. Then we had Kaycee, who immediately left again, and that's because he tried to resume his place in the game that he had before, which was the place that got him sent home in the first place. Amy did that, but Amy again she was a more circumstantial boot, and so when she came back in, the circumstances were different. Kaycee, obviously, don't do what Kaycee did.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
Kaycee.
then we had Brendan in season 13. He left pretty quickly again. He basically
he did the revolving door.
Yeah, he had the same sort of he went back into his previous position, which was the same position that got him evicted in the first place. Then we had Judd. Judd lasted a couple rounds at the very least. He changed his game.
He had an in.
Yeah,
he had an in because he was never part of the exterminators. Correct me if I'm wrong about that.
No, yeah, he was aligned with like Amanda, and they made the exterminators after Judd came back into the house.
Okay,
that was a new alliance. But Judd was with like Andy and Amanda and stuff, and then they turned on him. And then when he came back into the game, he did retain that connection with Andy, even though Andy was largely responsible for sending him home. And he was able to he changed his game. That said, he was never in a position to win the game. Having come back, he allowed himself to be used as a pawn as opposed to his previous position. So he changed things up. He entered as a different person, I think, and that's kind of what helped him succeed a little bit. But again, even then, and I did forget Crazy James.
We don't talk about season 9 unless we have to.
Then we had Nicole, who lasted like a week or two.
Only because Donnie pissed everybody off, pissed Derek off. Let's be real.
Yeah. She tried to change her game a little bit, but what are you gonna do? Johnny Mac changed up a bit. He started to work with Vanessa upon his return. He lasted a few more weeks. Johnny Mac, probably the most successful returning player. I think Johnny Mac is one of the few who had a decent chance to win upon returning to the game. So maybe that's the trick. Johnny Mac, who was the only one who really saw what Vanessa was doing, decided instead of working against her, why don't I come back in and try to work with her, which got him through a few weeks, and then he was able to turn things around. So that might be the trick if we're looking at tricks, because then we get Victor, who came back and then started working with the people who were running the game. He kind of ended in at that point, and then he got evicted again, and then got evicted again. It's Victor did not do much that was correct, unfortunately for him. And then Cody, who lasted like a couple of weeks, but basically returned to the same position. So basically, the lesson learned here is, do not just try to go back into the house and do what you were doing before. You have to dramatically change what you were doing, whether that means altering the role that you have in the house or altering the people that you're working with. I know that it seems like, oh, what a bummer it would be if somebody came back in and started working with Tyler, but that might be the path forward. Because that's really proven to be the successful way of moving forward. Is usually when you leave the game, you get a better sense of who's running the game, and if you can work with that person and then turn the tables on them once you get an advantage, as opposed to openly just trying to target them immediately, you might be in a better spot there. So if there's anything to learn from past Big Brother history, it's I guess it's disappoint the fans and work with the mastermind that they want you to target.
Yeah, but that's not what we want for good TV. I want them to go after them, Taran, damn it.
All right. And then we had another great question here from Maura, who wanted to know, how have you got a sense of who everyone would like to sit beside in the final two? And I want to ask this in the next forum. I want to get an option for who do you think this person plans on taking to the final two? And I'm willing to bet that most people right now are thinking Tyler. I think Kaycee would say Tyler. I think Angela would say Tyler.
JC would say Tyler.
I think Sam would say Tyler. JC's one I think would say Tyler, but there's definitely a small possibility that he might flip the script and go with Sam or something like that. He's a little overprotective of Sam. So I do think JC would probably say Tyler, but you never know. Brett, I think, is another interesting one. He has a final two with Tyler, but I don't know if Brett would actually take Tyler to the end. I'm willing to bet that Brett would maybe cut Tyler for Kaycee. I feel like Brett would see the opportunity and he'd try to take Kaycee. Kaycee is a person that JC might try to take as well. So those are two that are a little iffy. I think Sam would probably take Tyler, and I think Haleigh would take Kaycee. Yes, she'd definitely take Kaycee.
Haleigh can beat anybody, I feel like.
Yes. So really thinking about it, like all of these answers are either Tyler or Kaycee, basically. So that's why I'm saying like it's Tyler and Kaycee, most likely winners at this point.
By the way, I want to ask you because this was brought up in the chat. I can't remember who said it, but they were like talking about the fact that the house seems to have amnesia. That Tyler has all these competition wins and can win, has 3 veto wins and an HOH win. Like, do they just not remember this, or just, do you think, basically what I'm asking is, when do you think that matters to these house guests.
Well, I think it does matter to them in a positive sense. They think that's great for them because they think that his competition wins are going to help them get to the end. And in terms of like when do they think that maybe they'll lose a jury vote to him because of these competition wins, I'm not sure. That definitely could be something that harms him in the future. But for right now, most of them aren't concerned. Kaycee doesn't seem concerned. Angela, I think, feels like she's right up there with him in terms of competition wins. Brett might be somebody that ends up being concerned. JC might end up being concerned, but Sam obviously isn't. So it's really, it's not something that people seem to care much about right now. It might come up later, but I think the overall perception of Tyler as, the surfer bro, really just helps him in that way. Like they see him as only physical and nothing else, which is very beneficial.
Which is so far from the truth. Tess says in the chat, I swear Tyler is the mist. So he's not even like Dan, who gives off the mist. She's saying that he is the mist. People just like him. He's one of the most likable people. I agree with that as well. Like I don't particularly care for Tyler's game. I feel like he's a little bit bland. Like him and Angela together are just like the bland of the blandest. You know what I mean? But he is playing a good game right now, and I'm sure it's good. I talked about it before. It's one of these things where after the season and moving into next season, I'll look back and go, God, that was really amazing what he was doing. That was who can play the game like Tyler. You know what I mean? So it's not something you can necessarily see when you're in the middle of it or appreciate.
Yes. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up, guys?
I think we're good. Melissa, you have anything? I'm excited to see who comes back from the battle back. I'm not so down on it like you are. I would love for this person to come back and win an HOH and say, Kaycee and Angela, sit your butt down. I swear if I ever got HOH, that's what I would say. But,
All right. Well, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will update you on everything that's been happening today on the feeds. Tomorrow, we will also have a Wednesday night recap of the veto episode of Big Brother 20. And then Thursday night, of course, a live eviction recap after the live eviction. And, of course, we've got the American Ninja Warrior podcast coming to you. Just these final 3 episodes, the national finals. Make sure you check it out. It's always fun to watch. You can start right from here. And we recorded the first part of the national finals tonight. We recorded that today, so that should be out very soon, hopefully. To those asking about the update from this morning in the iTunes feed, I suggest, just in general, if you're wondering where a podcast is, I highly recommend you ask Scott St. Pierre. He is the one that will be able to help you with all technical questions.
Yeah. We do not know.
Unfortunately, cannot help you with that. So I feel bad when people ask me and I don't have anything to say to them. So go make sure you get in contact with Scott for any technical needs. I think
you should add me on Twitter. I'm not in Twitter jail anymore. You can add me at One Lucky Gay. By the way, I'm over 10,000 followers now, so I'm all excited about that. And people actually see my replies when I reply to them now, so that's also cool. You never did that before.
Yeah, we're finally getting notifications in the group chat on Twitter.
Finally.
I don't have
it's a whole new world
anymore.
Seriously.
Yeah, although I feel like that's actually harming my DM response rate because I'm no longer manually checking them.
Okay.
I'm like I probably haven't checked the ones that you get from people that aren't following you. But what are you gonna do?
By the way, nobody asked me, but I hate Tyler's hair. I'm right there with JC. It was the most ghastly thing. I know Lita was like, "Don't ever say girly man again." I'm sorry. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I was like, "Oh my God, he looks like a woman."
Okay,
and I'm sorry. I'm not into women, Lita. So it's not good when you look like one.
To be fair, I think that Sam styled it very old lady-y with the curling it under where it just kind of was like a bob type deal. It should have just been flat. If she had just done it, instead she was combing it over so it fell in this very mom way, and I feel like it would have looked better had it just been flat straight hair, but instead it was just a very feminine do. I was not quite a fan of it, but to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of his big long curls anyway. I like him best when he's got his hair back in a ponytail. possibly I might like it best if it was just cut off, but you know,
Tyler with short hair, I have seen those pictures. He looks absolutely amazing. By the way, after I saw that, I don't know how this got into my feed, but someone like compared him to like Mrs. Doubtfire because he looked like a woman. So then I started watching like clips of Mrs. Doubtfire. It's a good movie. I like it.
Yes. Black Orchid in the chat asked, "Is my hair as curly as Tyler's if I grow it out?" Yes, it is.
Whoa. Well, there you go. There's your new haircut. Do it. You can do it. Do a Tyler impression.
I think I'm good. I think I experienced that as a child, and nobody else needs to experience that anymore. It's you know.
All right.
Yeah. So okay, make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. So for Brent and Melissa, I am Taran Armstrong. We will see you next time.